Spring in Umatilla, Oregon, is a fleeting thing. The cold grip of winter relinquishes its hold reluctantly, and the promise of summer warmth lingers just out of reach. In 1983, however, the season brought not renewal, but tragedy, a darkness that settled over the small riverside town and never truly lifted. It began on a cool April evening when two teenagers, Emma Calloway and Michael "Mikey" Travers, failed to return home. Emma, 17, was the town's golden girl, an honors student, captain of the debate team, and beloved daughter of one of Umatilla's oldest families. Mikey, 18, was the quieter half of their duo, a dreamer who loved sketching the Columbia River and writing songs no one else ever heard. They were inseparable, and everyone in town knew they'd been sweethearts since junior high. Emma's mother, Diane, called the police first, around midnight. She had a gut feeling something was wrong. Emma was responsible to a fault. Mikey's parents joined in shortly after, pacing their modest living room and urging the police to start searching. The officers assured them it was probably nothing, teenagers sneaking off to avoid curfew. But by dawn, when Mikey's blue Chevy pickup was found abandoned on a dirt trail near the river, the town's mood shifted from concern to fear. The vehicle was locked, and Mikey's guitar, which he rarely left behind, was still in the cab. Tracks near the truck suggested the pair had walked toward the riverbank. A search party, comprised of police and townsfolk, scoured the surrounding woods and water. It wasn't until 2 days later that a hiker stumbled upon the bodies. Emma and Mikey were found lying side by side in a clearing, their hands clasped together as if for comfort. Both had been brutally assaulted and stabbed multiple times. Detective Sam Whitaker, a seasoned investigator from Pendleton, was brought in to lead the case. He immediately recognized the challenges of solving such a heinous crime in a close-knit town where everyone knew everyone. Suspicions would fester, and secrets would unravel. Yet, for all the whispered accusations and pointed fingers, the investigation yielded little evidence. The clearing where Emma and Mikey were found revealed no clear signs of struggle. The murder weapon, assumed to be a large hunting knife, was never recovered. A set of tire tracks near the trailhead suggested a third party, but they were too worn to trace definitively. Interviews with friends and family painted a picture of two teens deeply in love but offered no clues to any enemies or dark secrets. Still, Whitaker's instincts told him the killer wasn't a stranger passing through. This kind of crime, intimate, rage-filled, pointed to someone local. But who? As spring turned to summer, Umatilla became a pressure cooker of suspicion and grief. Every quirk or out-of-place behavior became fodder for gossip. Some pointed to Emma's ex-boyfriend, Tom Beasley, a hot-headed mechanic who'd been seen arguing with her a week before the murders. Others whispered about Jerry Flynn, a loner who lived in a trailer near the river and had a history of leering at teenage girls. Still, others speculated about a group of out-of-town loggers who had been drinking at the local bar that week. Tom Beasley was brought in for questioning multiple times. He admitted to being upset over Emma breaking up with him but denied any involvement in her death. His alibi, drinking at a friend's house the night of the murders, was shaky but ultimately corroborated. Jerry Flynn was harder to pin down. He had no alibi and a reputation for violence. But a search of his property turned up nothing, and he steadfastly denied knowing the victims. The loggers were eventually ruled out. None of them had been in the area at the time, according to bar receipts and witness statements. Whitaker's frustration mounted. Every lead ended in a dead end, and the trail grew colder by the day. By autumn, the investigation had stalled completely. The murders of Emma and Mikey were officially classified as unsolved, though Whitaker continued to revisit the case files in his spare time for years. For the families, the lack of closure was unbearable. Diane Calloway became a recluse, rarely leaving her home except to visit Emma's grave. Mikey's younger brother, Danny, developed a drinking problem and left town as soon as he was old enough, vowing never to return. The community's pain was compounded by a growing unease. If the killer was still out there, still among them, what might they do next? Parents imposed stricter curfews, and teenagers avoided the riverbank altogether. Umatilla, once a sleepy and safe little town, became a place defined by its tragedy. Over the years, the story of Emma and Mikey became folklore, retold with embellishments and distortions. Some claimed their ghosts could be seen on misty mornings, walking hand in hand by the river. Others whispered of cursed land or vengeful spirits. In 2013, the 30th anniversary of the murders brought renewed attention to the case. A true crime podcast, Cold River Chronicles, dedicated a season to unraveling the events of 1983. Host Melissa Ward interviewed surviving family members, retired Detective Whitaker, and even Tom Beasley, who had since moved to Idaho and built a new life. The series reignited public interest but uncovered no new evidence. Whitaker, now in his 70s, shared his lingering suspicions with the podcast. "I always thought it was someone Emma or Mikey knew," he said. "The way they were left, it wasn't random. It was personal." Melissa Ward's investigation did turn up one intriguing detail, an old police report about a break-in at the Calloway home 3 weeks before the murders. The intruder had stolen Emma's diary and some photographs but left behind cash and other valuables. Whitaker admitted he'd considered the theft significant at the time but had been unable to connect it to the murders. Today, Emma and Mikey's case remains open, though no new leads have emerged. Their families have long since moved away, and many of the original players in the investigation have passed on or retired. But in Umatilla, the memory of that tragic spring lingers like a shadow over the town. In the local diner, where a framed photo of Emma and Mikey hangs on the wall, old-timers still talk about the case. Some insist they know who did it but won't say, fearing retribution or simply preferring to let sleeping dogs lie. Others shake their heads and mutter about evil, a force that can't be explained or eradicated, only endured. And down by the river, where the clearing has long since been reclaimed by nature, the air seems heavier. Visitors often remark on the eerie stillness, the way the birds go silent and the wind seems to hold its breath. For those who believe in such things, it's a place where the past refuses to rest, where the cries of two young souls still echo, unanswered, through the trees.